Come in.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee to order, and I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting will be taped for future airing on DCTV, and I'd also like to ask people to make sure they turn off their cell phones, devices, whatnot. May we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Shannon Jenkins.
Here.
Mr. John Nunes.
Yep.
Ms. Kathleen Amaral.
Here.
Dr. Carol Karafotis.
Here.
Mr. Chris Oliver.
Here.
Thank you. All right, so next we have allotted 10 minutes for public comment on any of the items that are on our agenda. So if anybody wants to speak about any of those items on the agenda, I will welcome you up to our podium and ask you to state your name and share your concern. All right, hearing none, we will move on to approval of the minutes. I will start with the new devices over here, so we're still figuring out how to turn sounds off, all that, yeah. I'll start with entertain a motion to approve the regular session minutes of September 25th.
So moved. Second.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes and a second by Dr. Karafotis. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in approval?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions. All right, so that passes unanimously. Next, I will entertain a motion to pass the executive session minutes of September 25th.
So moved, Madam Chair, with the stipulation that they be held until the matter for which they were intended is complete.
I second.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Ms. Amaral. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions. So that passes unanimously. All right, so this evening we have a student representative from the high school, Madison, Korea, who's going to share with us the goings-on over the high school and in the district. So go ahead, Madison. Welcome.
Hello. Okay, so recently, this past week, we had the American Red Cross come, and they had a blood drive. We also had students take the PSATs, and we had over 400 students take them. The art department has been doing lots of fundraising for their future trip to Italy, which will be in the spring. We had a paint night, which you pay about like $30 to go. They provide you with painting supplies, and you go and paint. They also have a pottery night coming up, where it's like the same thing, but not painting, but with pottery. And they also had a New York City trip, which I just went on this past weekend, which was really fun. The band and sports teams and music programs are doing well. Our media classes have been using their tools for something called The Tribe, which is a student news program, and they share like the lunch for that week, sports game results, fun facts. One of these was the history of the Dartmouth High School, or the Dartmouth School District. And one segment that they have is the Principal's Corner, where they talk about, we have Mr. Tebow come on, and he gives, he talks about what's going on around the school. And it's really nice to get to know him like that and he's had a great smooth transition. So we also have had a lot of senior fundraisers lately. We have homecoming coming up, and we have a Dartmouth High School versus New Bedford Voc. The teachers will be playing a flag football game, and it's going to be a fundraiser for the after prom. Some clubs that have been doing stuff. We have Key Club, who's been helping out with hurricane relief. They've been working before, after, and during lunch, before and after school and during lunch, to raise money for hurricanes and relief in Texas and Florida and Puerto Rico. And the Environmental Club recently had a beach cleanup at Palmer's Island. So there are just a few things. But, yeah.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Great job.
She just talks about herself a little bit.
Mr. Nunes has a request. He would like to have you, since this is your first night here, tell us maybe a little bit about yourself, too.
Sure. Okay, so I'm a junior at Dartmouth High School. In school, right now my classes, I'm taking public speaking, Algebra 2 honors, and AP US Government and Politics. Outside of school, I'm a writer for The Spectrum. I'm in the Environmental Club, and I dance on a competition team. So.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Welcome as a political science professor. I'm glad to hear you're taking AP. U.S. government, yay. And no, not poor thing. And this is great experience for both your public speaking and your political science class. So there you go, right? Do you get extra credit for that?
I don't think so.
All right, any comments, questions?
Welcome aboard.
Welcome. Okay, so next we will move on to the presentation of the Dartmouth High School Improvement Plan. I see Mr. Tebow and his team here. If they want to come up, I don't know if we have any introductions, or if we're just going to go right into it.
Go right in.
All right.
So apparently my team's not coming with me, which is fine.
I really expected it to.
But I'll stop by thanking them for being here. Moral support, I guess, is important too. I want to thank the committee and central office for the opportunity to present the Dartmouth High School School Improvement Plan. I also would like to thank not only the administrative team that's here, but also the lead teacher team at Dartmouth High School for reviewing the plan and offering some feedback. If you've had an opportunity to review the plan, you'll see that it is very tightly aligned to the Dartmouth District Strategic Plan. And it also aligns with what our focus has been so far since I landed at Dartmouth High School, which we're really focusing on three big areas. We're focusing on improving core instruction, empowering people, and building strong relationships. And so it's very much, our school improvement plan is very much in alignment with those big three initiatives as well. But specifically under teaching and learning, one of our major areas of focus is going to be on developing a benchmark assessment system for all core courses that's aligned to the Mass Curriculum frameworks that will produce data that teachers can use to inform and adjust their instructional practice, as well as to inform the delivery of our interventions and supports. We're really eyeing that work to set up our transition to a new schedule next year. And so we really believe that developing that benchmark assessment system, which is already in place, in the elementary and middle school level, we're really looking to develop that and implement it for next school year. So this year is really about developing those assessments. In addition to that, we're excited to continue our partnership with central office leadership as well as with Dartmouth Middle School so that we can continue to improve the vertical alignment of our mathematics curriculum with the goal of broadening access to calculus at the high school level. This is particularly important given our transition from a block schedule to a 7-period schedule next year. And so it's important that we get our eyes on that and that we come to some understanding with the middle school so that we can make sure our students are not boxed out of calculus moving forward. And so I was relieved to hear the middle school present a few weeks back about, how important, and how much focus they're spending on making sure our students are college and career ready. And so we look forward to partnering with them so that we can make sure that that work takes place. It also goes very nicely with, our initiatives around developing our STEAM program. They all kind of go hand in hand. So we're really excited about that. In terms of access and equity, this year we are very fortunate with the support of the school committee and with central administration to bring a director of school counseling and support to the high school. And so Bridget Martin, I think I introduced her at a previous meeting, but she comes to us with a wealth of experience from a number of districts. So she has that perspective to see how school counseling programs have been set up in a number of different schools. And so this year, she's really working hard to review with administration, with the counseling staff, and as necessary, revise school counseling and support services so that we're better meeting the needs of all of our students. Along with that initiative comes the task of developing a written school counseling curriculum that's aligned to the Massachusetts model for comprehensive school counseling. And again, it's really about making sure that all students have access to the supports and interventions they need in order to be successful, not just academically, but socially and emotionally as well. And then finally, Our last piece here in the plan is around community engagement. One of the things that at the high school level, and not unique to Dartmouth High School, but in the high school level in general, we see kind of a fall off from parental involvement, and once we get to that level, and we really want to work hard to make sure our parents are partners with us, so that we can support all students in being successful. In order to do that, it's incumbent upon the high school to make sure we're sharing information with the community in a way that they can access it. And so we're looking to develop a comprehensive marketing and communications plan to enhance our school-to-family engagement. One of the steps we'll be taking around that is to survey our parents. We make use of Twitter already, and certainly a number of our community members are on Twitter, but there's a number of different social media platforms, and from previous experience, I think parents still tend to access information on Facebook. So we're in the process of creating a Dartmouth High School Facebook page. Certainly we're partnering with the district technology department as well for the rollout of our new website. And so we're really excited to make sure we continue to engage the community in a number of different ways. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Not a question really, but an observation. As I read your plan, I was very pleased with the amount of involvement in all your committees, your district committee, your school committees regarding leadership, the PBS program, the intervention program. So I think those are all great steps, and I thought the plan was well written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Nudes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought it was excellent. A question that I came up with is, and I know Dr. Gifford's going to talk about it a little bit later on, is this new grant that we got from the state, you know, how does that affect this plan with STEM and such?
Sure. So actually, we spent some time talking about it today at the high school with one of the local reporters. It really enhances the work that we had in place already, and it really, I think, accelerates the work. Public schools, unfortunately, oftentimes funding becomes an issue. And so in this case, we have the great fortune because of central administration and some of the teachers that partnered with them to receive the grant. We have the great fortune of funding is really not going to be a barrier. We're going to have state-of-the-art equipment. Our students are going to have a state-of-the-art experience around biotech, engineering, computer science, and robotics. And so I know the teachers are just thrilled to be getting that, that equipment. So really, it accelerates the work that we had planned. And again, it goes very nicely with our partnership with the Highlander Institute in developing these pathways. So, thank you.
Questions?
Not a question, just a comment, just great work, and I love reading what, what's to come, and adding that position and the developing that school counseling curriculum. I'm very excited about that and having Bridget on board. And then that higher level, that calculus, that pathway to a higher math is just so important. Great.
Mr. Oliver, you have a question, comment?
Just great presentation, Mr. Tebow. Just a couple of small questions that I have in regards to all these different pieces that you put together in your SIP. Do you feel that Dartmouth High School is at a point in which you're able to create staff buy-in for everything that you're trying to do? Because that's been a concern in the past with having the buy-in from the staff there. So do you feel moving forward that this is something that you'll be able to deliver on, with the staff and kind of bring everyone together?
Certainly that will be our goal, right? And I think that that's the obstacle that any leader faces in any organization. Certainly that's a work in progress. I do think that staff responds well when they see competence, and I think that it takes time to build trust, and I think
Sure.
part of building trust is seeing that you have competent leadership that listens, and has a clearly well thought out plan. Certainly, one of the challenges we do face at Dartmouth High School is creating that sense of urgency that we do need to step up our game. And certainly that is something that, you know, I'm being fully transparent about and that we are trying to create at Dartmouth High School.
Okay, great. Thank you, and I'm really excited about having the new guidance position on board as well. And I expect great things from Bridget over there. Bridget and I, in full disclosure, we went to school together, so looking forward to big things over in guidance.
Nothing like putting the pressure on.
But great
In
presentation.
trouble now.
I will echo my colleagues' comments. I think this is great. I would say the one thing that I've been hearing a lot, particularly around talking about community engagement and discussion, is I think there's a lot of anxiety among parents about the transition to the new schedule. Like, what does it mean? How is that going to work? You know, just a variety of concerns in all levels. And I would love to see that as a focus of communication, because that's what people, how is this going to work? And I know we're working on it, but as we figure that out, I think that's really important to communicate out to people.
Sure, and we just had a PTO meeting and this issue came up, and I think it would be premature right now to hold a meeting, because what
Agreed.
we have
Yeah.
established is that we will have a 7-period day, and
Right.
periods will average
Right.
50 minutes.
Right.
That takes a minute to say.
Right.
And
Right.
so I
Right.
think
Right.
that any meeting would be, you know, a little premature. But certainly, as we are further along in the process, we will hold both parent and students. Quite frankly, the students are anxious as well, and I think we owe it to them to communicate with them, because that's who this new schedule is going to most dramatically impact, is our students and our teachers. And certainly when we're at a point where we have more information and more details have been finalized, we'll certainly hold a forum for
Yeah.
that.
And along that line, I think I'm interested. I look at Michelle because I'm Miss Roy. I'm also a math person. I love to see the calculus, the pathway to calculus identified, but I would also love to see, I don't know if it's possible for us to build a pathway to BC. I know we have Calc AB now, but for students particularly who are looking to go into STEM and engineering and those sorts of things, to really be ready to jump in at a high level, you need to be at BC. It really positions them well, and so I'm hopeful that at some point we can figure that one out for students. So, but I mean, I think this is great, and those are just some things that I've been hearing, so that you're aware of them. But I think it's a great presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Do we need to approve this?
No, we don't. I don't think we need to approve these. No. Nope. We don't do it.
Thank you.
We're good. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
All right, so next we're going to move on to our consent agenda. So we have the fundraising activities at both the middle school and DeMello. We can take these separately or together.
Get the Mellow and Cushman.
Oh, DeMello and Cushman, and then also the middle school.
Yeah.
Do you want to take them separately? Does anybody have any questions?
No, I had the opportunity to review them. They both look okay.
Look fine.
Right. All right, so I will entertain a motion to approve both the DeMello, Cushman, and the middle school PTO fundraising activities.
So moved.
Second?
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Mr. Oliver. Any further discussion? I'll just put my pitch in now, right, to thank all the people who are working really hard to raise lots of money to provide enrichment activities for our kids. You know, these things would not be possible, and it's just, I want to highlight every opportunity I can, how much private money we rely on to provide the quality education that our students are getting in the Dartmouth Public Schools. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, so those pass unanimously. Next, we have a request for the high school band to participate and compete in the U.S. Band's National Championship Competition on November 11th and 12th in New Jersey. Does anybody have any questions on that? I think this is pretty standard.
It's an annual
This is an annual
Their
thing,
annual
yeah.
trip.
annual trip.
Best of luck to them.
Yeah.
I'll
All right,
make
so
a
I
mo-
will entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved?
I second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Oliver, a second by Ms. Amaral. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So that also passes unanimously. Next, moving on to new business, we have an amendment to the elementary and middle school handbook. Ms. Roy.
So, as you heard from Mrs. Townsend at the last meeting on our discussion about the coordinated program review, One of the areas we needed to amend was the inclusion of the restraint policy that we voted in January of 16 into the elementary and middle school handbooks. We were able to get that into the high school handbook because that came out after, and we voted the elementary and middle school in June. So we're just going to amend the handbook to include the policy, and then we will send that out to all families through an email blast and post it on our website. So the amendment would simply be to include the 3-paragraph portion of the policy into both of those handbooks.
Okay, and that policy, I will reiterate, we already approved that in
January of 16.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? All right, so I will entertain a motion to amend the elementary and middle school handbook to include the restraint policy.
I'll make a motion to
Thank you.
amend.
And do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Amaral, a second by Mr. Nunes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries unanimously. All right, so next, we're on to the superintendent's
Moving right
updates.
along.
I know we are.
I really just wanted to, once again, reiterate and talk about the grant, because it is something we thought was pretty phenomenal, and you just heard Mr. Tebow speak about it. We do have, we met with Doug McCullough this afternoon with some of the teachers. I guess he went into the labs and got to see some of the things that are going to be happening, and so we gave him the rundown of how we went about the grant, and we got it, and so you'll see a nice article coming out about that.
Great.
But just to mention that it was just, as was already mentioned, our work with kind of looking at pathways and these programs had already started, especially last year. If you recall, we met with some core teachers about specifically developing pathways, being very intentional about that. And we talked about that today, where we've had pockets of this work going on. We had the iSTEM club start, we've had robotics at the middle school, and then what's been happening, the growth of the engineering program at the high school, and then the new biotech lab we were starting. So when the grant came up, and the quick turnaround, but notified by the New Bedford Investment Board, Workforce Investment Board, that this was out there, and we took that shot, and we're in complete disbelief when we got it. We, like Ms. Olivera said, we thought we'd just get it back with some feedback of, well, do better next time, with some points. But it was thanks to a number of folks, including some of the teachers, that provided the information of what kind of equipment would make their work the state of the art. Because, you know, they're all doing what they do best with what they have, but to be able to have access to some of this stuff that we're going to be able to purchase, how do you pronounce it again, Mr. Galashaw? Anatomash? It's a giant, like, virtual reality kind of cadaver, 3D thingamahoozy computer. Z-Space Labs, just CNC equipment, just the amount of material and resources that are going to be coming. And just to let folks know, this was all information, all stuff that our teachers were looking forward to down the road and had plans for to develop, and it was their vision. And now with the work with the Highlander Institute, and to have the resources as well, that the articulation of these pathways is going to provide so many students with so many opportunities. And we say even our folks that perhaps are thinking of a 4-year college degree, but maybe not aware of what else might be out there, and they get exposed to this and maybe change their minds, and it's just going to be phenomenal. So we will be receiving, as you saw in that letter, a contract which we will sign about, and then it's spend the money and keep to the timeline. They'll want to come back later on in the year to see what we've done with that. Matter of fact, when we went to the awards ceremony, the governor was there also doing a ribbon-cutting ceremony at Neshoba. Engineering? It was an engineering program that they had built up with last year's funding, so it was that. But folks do all kinds of things, culinary, anything in the health field, et cetera. So again, 66 applicants and 32 recipients, and we were one. So it's a wonderful boost for Dartmouth High School.
Absolutely.
That's great.
I'm hoping that at some point we could have a presentation on what exactly are they doing, and what does this new equipment look like, and
Yes.
how does it integrate into the program?
Yeah.
Because I'll need to know.
It's a great idea.
Maybe we can have one of our meetings from one of the
Yeah.
labs down there.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Or at least some video production from there, right?
Well, and I also think it's great, I know a lot of people have been concerned about when we lose students to vocationals and Bristol Aggie, and it's very difficult for us to
Right.
compete with the state funding formula because we get significantly
Sure.
less money per student than our vocational schools. So this sort of infusion of capital really helps us create those sort of pathways that make us attractive to students who might have been looking at voc. So I'm really happy to see that we can now have the nice shiny things
Yeah, different
sometimes that,
options.
and I know oftentimes students will go to voc and they'll see the nice shiny things, and it's not that we don't have a lot to offer, but believe me, I work at one of the 10 ugliest campuses in the United States, so I understand how hard it can be to
Right.
compete
True.
to students and for them to see. So having that stuff, I think, is really great for our current students and, to keep students in district who might have been
Absolutely.
considering leaving. So
Absolutely.
it's fabulous. Any other questions, Mr. Nunes?
I got a couple of questions then. Dr. Gifford, do we have a time frame on the grant? I mean, having been out there in the government side type of deal, I know
Right.
every once in a while, you just, here's this pot of money, you get it today, you gotta spend it by tomorrow,
Yeah,
type of deal, so.
It's pretty much from my understanding for the year. It is a
Okay.
year grant. As I said, we have to resubmit our same budget for some reason. I don't know, it's the same one we did, all of the materials and the timeline.
Yeah.
So we'll be working with Mr. Galashaw, Ms. Oliveira, and the teachers of not only, like, for example, when the technology can show up, but, and it's not just all technology, you know,
Yeah.
there's robotic stuff, all kinds of things, but then what is the priority right now for the teachers? What can they put into use right away as we continue to purchase? So it'll be within the year. And the other thing I wanted to mention also is part of this, we did meet with BCC, and we'll be meeting even further about more intentional articulation programs with them. So again, our kids can exit with something, you know, and be either right to work or.
Right. And then, I would print it out, thank you for the list of
Yes.
others that applied, and I kind of took a look at it and very quickly went through it. There are 5 other high schools that got monies for this type of deal. The rest, talking about what Dr. Shannon, Dr. Jenkins talked about, they went to vocational schools or
Yes.
colleges, community colleges, et cetera, type of deal. I mean, again, being out in that field, and I've always said it, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but vocational schools, as an example, have more money than God, because they're fortunate to be able to apply for Perkins grants that gives them all this big fancy equipment that is needed, and they're able to use and,
Right.
teach the students with, so,
Right.
to see that we're, one of 5 high schools, one of 6 high schools
Right.
that got some money here
Yeah.
is.
No, you're right, and that's, I think
is-
that's what made the grant a little bit more difficult to write, because the questions really were geared toward more of those workforce investment partners, et cetera. And we've got some partnerships, but not to the extent of a vocational school. And also, when we met with the Workforce Investment Board, they did say that there are very few high schools, as you say, our kind, that not only not apply, but then are able to get money. So that made it even sweeter.
And congratulations on a job well done, across
Thank
the
you.
board.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
It's a team effort.
So maybe to Dr. Karafotis's point, maybe we can schedule a presentation, maybe a little bit
Yeah,
later
later
in the
on.
year,
Yeah.
after we've bought some, because if you describe it to us, we're not gonna
Right.
know, but we
Yeah.
can maybe get some
Yeah,
pictures and,
Absolutely.
of that. That would be great if we can do that later in the
Love to.
year.
Fantastic.
Any other comments or questions?
No, great job.
All right, so, report of the chair. I'll remind everyone that town meeting is tomorrow night, so I will see many of you there tomorrow. I will also remind people that the DEF, the Dartmouth Education Foundation Spelling Bee, is November 2nd. It is scheduled for. There's still time to sponsor a team or to put together a team. So please contact me if you have any questions or you're interested in that. The money goes to fund grants for schools, teachers. Not quite as big as our grant, but still some fun stuff we get to do with that money, so we'd love to have your support. Any other matters that people would like to talk about? Ms. Amaral, I believe the craft fair is, resource fair is coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think I mentioned it last time, but of course.
Again.
It's Sunday at Dartmouth High School, the Unified Arts Program, they'll be selling their art. There'll be a unified basketball game, 11 to 11:45, and there will be just under 140 tables mixed with arts and craft vendors, local craft vendors. Some students will be represented selling their work, and local organizations spanning from just so many different resources. It is not just for folks who have students or loved ones with disabilities. It's really just spans all of the needs that you may face, especially with trying to support students with social, emotional, so mental health, drug addiction, crisis kind of behavioral supports, and the Veterans Council will be there, the DNRT, the Board of Health, Youth Advocate, and many, many, many more really under one roof with a lot of fun, going on. So I encourage everyone to go. It's 10 to 3 on Sunday, the 22nd. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? And then the last thing on our list is the next meeting, which usually we put the student representative on the spot for that, but I won't do that. Mr. Oliver's going to help you. I was going to say, I'm going to have to, though, because I don't have it on my calendar, apparently. So when is our next meeting?
The next meeting is Monday, October 30th.
Excellent. So hopefully we will see you all then. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Mr. Oliver. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good night, everyone.